All right. Sorry to give you a short coffee break. I just want to take 1 minute to tell you about my relationship with your speaker. I think if my memory serves me right, about 14 years ago, we were having coffee in the morning at a delicatessen in North Hollywood. And tonight, to introduce him as your speaker is, I believe, but for me anyway, is a benefit, a big benefit, not just a fringe benefit, but a big benefit that I've received here in Alcoholics Anonymous. This man has meant much to me. I've learned a lot from him, believe it or not. And I know that you're going to just absolutely enjoy him. And without any further ado, I would like to introduce Ray M.
Hey, I'm an alcoholic. My name is Ray. Hi. And for anybody here that is in their first months of sobriety, I just got to say that the message has already been carried tonight. So I'm just sort of filling in the rest of the time. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm a product of Alcoholics Anonymous. For good or for worse, I'm it. And the only thing I know, and this is my beginning, is Alcoholics Anonymous. I would like to say I had some ideas before I got here, but at the time when I got here, I didn't. So I say loud and clear, and this is so important to me, that I love Alcoholics Anonymous, and Alcoholics Anonymous is a whole and complete answer for me. And I believe this with my soul, that I have been sober and clean, and that is another important fact to me. For 13 years and 10 months, a little more. Continuous, and that is important. I do not take any pills. I do not smoke any grass. I do not snort any coke. I do not take any alcohol. And I do not shoot anything into my arms. And that is only due to Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's all I am. That's really all I am. And that's a message that I got right here tonight. And Mike hit on it, and so did the other people. The other message is that of love. Because I tell you, I pained so much in my lifetime that I don't want to pain anymore. I don't want to be in arguments. I don't want to be opinionated. I don't want to be these things. I just don't want to be these things. I just want to say hi and how are you and how you doing. That's really all I want. And I want to lay that out front because like I said, I'm not a speaker. I'm telling you that up front too. I'm just a run-of-the-mill guy that comes up here once in a great while and says something. But tonight's kind of special because I see Don and Mike and a few of the people I've seen. These are my teachers, because they were here when I got here. And the other people here, the Sherry and Norma, and there are people here that I know that know me. But more important is that you're all sitting out here, and that to me is Alcoholics Anonymous. And it's through love, Jesus. It's through love. And I wish I had the eloquence, But I'll tell you something. I learned a long time ago that it ain't the eloquence that's going to keep you sober, So, how I feel is what you get. And I don't have any magical story about my recovery. I took those steps. It's kind of boring, but I took the steps, and I've maintained this thing called sobriety. And when I'll just want to tell a little story about Mike, because Mike, we've traveled this path together, but for all these years that I've been sober, but Mike Ross showed me that love that he denounces at times. Mike Ross did not yell at me. He didn't. He just looked at me and said, "It's okay, kid." And I knew for some reason it'd be okay. And I knew that transmitted through to me my heart, and the same transmission that came from Bill Allison and Ralph Van Steen. He has since passed away. And that was the message of love, that somebody else cared about me and knew how I felt. And I try to transmit that to the new people that I work with, because I don't work with anybody over 7 days of sobriety. Because after 7 days, they know more than me, and I get confused. But that is the truth. That is the truth. I like them wet. I like them smelly. I like them dirty. And I can put my arms around those people. I just can. And I like them when they don't talk. Especially when they don't talk. Because I really feel this. It's so important, but I can communicate the same message that he communicated to me. He didn't talk. And it was love. It was love. And so that's why I say, and when they talk, I really, truly, I have to say, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know the answers, and I just don't drink. I say a little prayer, and that's it. Because that's really all I know. And concurrently, so to speak, in my head, if I can remember how it goes, I was bleeding rectally, and I had those sores. They were oozing sores on my body that would pop out. And I also was Jim, but I also was like 35 or 40 now, maybe a little add more, but under this frame. I had a 28-inch waist, and I heard telephones all the time, and I used to just sort of shuffle along, and I had long hair, and I didn't shave, and I didn't have any job, and I had lost my family, and the house and all that stuff, but that was sort of, and I tried desperately to make Alcoholics Anonymous, but I didn't know, I just didn't know. I'd come and I didn't understand, but I knew there was something, I knew, but I didn't know, and I always waiting for the thunder and the lightning to happen, and I wouldn't drink anymore. Oh, God. And I was totally obsessed with this thing of drinking. I didn't have a lot of problems, like such as jobs or wives or kids to worry about, and I didn't have to worry about loss of money. A lot of things that I've always said is that when I had reached this point, and I didn't set out to reach this point, but I reached this point that there really wasn't any fear left, because I didn't have anything to lose, and I didn't understand that then. But I was in this state. I was in this terrible state known to alcoholics, to you people. You know what I'm talking about. And I was scared, but then again I wasn't. And I knew instinctively that my road was coming to a close quickly. I mean, I was not eating, and I just knew it. And then one time, I had been coming to Alcoholics Anonymous. I said, God Almighty, it doesn't work, and I don't. Anyway, I was in Hollywood. I woke up in an alleyway in Hollywood. And these are only thoughts that are not, there's a continuity, but it's not in my head straight. And I wake up, and then I don't remember anything. And then all of a sudden, another flash comes in my head right now, and I had this beautiful, beautiful feeling in me. It was a euphoric feeling. It was like an all-knowing feeling. It was euphoric. I felt so beautiful. I felt so calm. I felt so nice. And the thought that was coming through my mind, or running through my mind, is that I was going to die. And I was at peace, and it was okay. And I knew it. And it wasn't going to take too long. I wasn't going to die immediately, but I knew it was close. I knew maybe a couple of months down the road or something. And it was okay. It was really so beautiful. Oh, God, I remember. And then I don't remember anything else. And then the next flash in my head was, and I don't know how like I said, I can't remember the story too well, but I remember holding a bottle of gin in my hand, and I said, please, God, help me. I don't want to drink this. Then I don't remember anything else. And then the next thing I remember was, I went to my ex-wife's house in Broken. There was nobody there. And I went through now 10 days. I remember, I say 10 because this was in July and this was in August when I come out of this horrendous sobering up for me. That it was one of the most horrendous things I've ever experienced. For me, I mean, maybe for somebody else it was just a walk in the park, but it was just awesome for me. I remember just these flashes coming in, the flashes of like the pulsating body and the stench of the alcohol just scooping off and the smell and I could and there were just flashes in my head, and then like I said, it was 10 days later. And then I was out and I was hitchhiking to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, and I was standing on the corner like this, and I was totally calm. And I said, I'm sober. I said, I haven't had a drink. And the fear of alcohol was so prevalent in my mind that it was, everything wanted to drink and I couldn't take the drink. I wanted it, but I couldn't drink it. And I went to the AA. And I didn't say too much. And I didn't say too much for a long time. And this is where, I got to say this again, because I'll say it loud and clear, this is where the people like Mr. Ross used to say, hey, it's okay, kid. He didn't say, sit down and shut up and blah, blah. They didn't do that. He understood, and Bill Allison, the same thing, if those who know him, and Ralph and those people, they knew, they just said, they literally instilled into me, he says, okay, it's okay. And I was living, and I was embarrassed about this. I had a mattress that I picked up, and I was living in an abandoned duplex in the hills of Hollywood. I used to sleep with a hatchet because there were no locks or doors, and I used to gather firewood. And I had the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, because I can't go into that story tonight, and I had the candles, and I put them on a couple of carton boxes, and that was my home. And I'll tell you, I mean, it was so simple, and I used to, all as I had to worry about was getting up and going to a meeting that day or that night. I didn't have to worry about anything. I never forgot. I'd get a little firewood, stick it in there, and at night and build a fire after the meeting. And I come home, and I used to. I wasn't that sick. I knew where it was, how it works. And I used to read that all the time because I wanted to know how it works. Because I'm sober, I don't know how to stay sober. It's good enough they're loving me, but, And so I used to do that. It was 5 months I did that, A very dark period of my life. Very frightening period of my life. Because here I was sober and I was all alone. I didn't know. I just didn't know, and I couldn't talk. I couldn't articulate phrases I didn't understand. I didn't know what words were. I didn't know how to put them together, and I used to put marbles in my mouth to learn how to talk again. I had done that and go the keiki kai koku to try to articulate words again, and I couldn't hold the sentences together. And this can be verified out by Mike. I used to talk, and I used to say I'm an alcoholic. My name is Ray. The topic was, thank you. That was it. And I did that for a long time, and guys like Mike would come up saying, you keep coming back to it. But by this time, I had a little sobriety. I had 5 months, but I just couldn't put anything together in my mind. And I knew what was left of the body and the soul and of me. I knew what alcohol had done to me, and I just knew it. And I was desperately. I used to go, like I said, go back to my place at night. I didn't want to tell anybody where I was living because I was afraid. I didn't know. It just didn't know. I didn't know. I said, maybe they're going to let me go. Maybe they'll kick me out. They say, you don't live in the right spot. And, I didn't know. I cried. I mean, geez, I was living in a mansion compared to some people. But I just didn't know. I didn't want to tell anybody. I said, where do you live? Well, I've got a nice place, And, but, I didn't want to. People knew. They knew. They didn't want to embarrass me. They knew I didn't have any money. The girls at do parties used to feed me. Jesus, here, Ray. They put it in front of me. Oh, thank you. For months they did that. Those waitresses down there were so loving to me. I guess maybe some of those guys would say, hey, give the kids something to eat. Maybe they'd pick up the tabs. When they got a little money ahead, like $5. I'd go in there and it'd be a big spender, but $5 was a lot of money. I remember $5 was a lot of money. When it's all I had was a lot of money. And I used to hold it. And I say, well, I'll get us some cheese, and I'll get one of those pies for 50 and a Coca-Cola Pepsi. And I light my candle, and I light the fire, and I'd say, God, I'm in heaven. And I didn't want anybody to know it was so beautiful, because they'd say, well, Ray, Jesus Christ, Jesus. But it was so beautiful, and I always say when everything was gone and everything was, it's so simple, it's just so simple, there's nothing to worry about. But I desperately, my heart and soul wanted to see how to stay sober. I just wanted to know how to stay sober. And I used to have a habit of picking up drunks that didn't want to stay sober. And if you could be 12-stepped by a guy like me, it would go something like this. I am not. Come on with me. I don't want to come with you. You got to come with me. Why do you got to quit drinking. I don't want to quit drinking. So I'm sober for 3 months. I said, I don't care. I said, well, just come with me, please. I said, I don't want to. Well, sometimes they take it, they're drinkers, they take a drink and they come with me. They're drunk and they're thinking. And all these people that didn't want sobriety, but I was going to carry this message I had. I didn't have any message, it was terrible. I just told them I was sober, and they said, well, so what? I said, well, what do you mean? It's a big deal. And of course, when new people, later on, just one little story, later on when new people used to come in, I used to tell them about, how it was when I said, Jesus Christ, and I wanted to stay sober. And the new people then would look at me and say, oh, Jesus, this guy is really crazy. And I would get kind of a little bit embarrassed, and I realized, that you can make a decision to, and there's a lot of things I realized, But I so wanted to learn how to stay sober. I so wanted to learn how to stay sober. And I knew the love from the men. I knew that kind of love. And I felt it in my heart. And I knew that they knew how to stay sober. And I was trying, but it didn't click. My clicker was not clicking. And so I was 5 months sober, and then I heard about the black lines of the Book of Alcoholics Anonymous at a meeting, and I was sitting in a meeting like this, and a lady was up here. Her name was Virginia Maxwell. She has since passed away. I grabbed a hold of the Jesus, that's it. The black lines, the Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't have to know anything. Oh God, it was so good. Well, I went back to my mansion, and I put that candle on, and I started. No, I think I had lights. No, I had a candle that time. And I had the candle, and I started reading. Rarely ever seen a person fail. Rarely ever seen a person fail. And oh, Jesus, it just didn't make any sense. And so 2 more months passed by, and it was now February. I had 7 months and I'm down at my place again, and I'm in despair. Now remember, I know I'm in the right spot, so there was no conflicting things in my head. There was nothing conflicting in my head. The only thing I wanted to know was, Jesus, I want to know how to stay sober. I want to know what is the thing, how do I stay sober? But there weren't worries. I had no worries. I'd go to the meeting, I'd come back, go to my place, and put my fire on and say I'm in heaven and go to bed. And that way, and somebody would argue with me, and I'd say, I didn't know what to argue about, because nothing registered. They'd say, Ray. I'd say, hey, that's cool. Right? He knew. He patted me on the head. It's okay, kid. You know, that's all they would say. Bill Allison looked and say, you're doing good. And I'd say, I wonder what they know that I don't know. And, I mean, something like that would bother me, man. I said, why are they saying that? Why are they, I just never understood it. But you see, they were giving to me, they were saying, hey, Ray, it's okay, Jesus, somebody's got to say it's okay. Somebody's got to pick up on a newcomer and say, hey, man, it's going to be okay for you. I wouldn't be standing here if somebody didn't care enough to say, hey, it's going to be okay, kid, come on, with love in the eyes, not hate. Not I know it all, but just say, hey, here's my hand. I'll listen to you. And then that's all I knew. That's all I knew about alcoholics. Thank God I didn't know all the things I know now. You know. And wow, can you imagine that? But, you know, now it's okay. But I was there in the 7 months, and I was really in despair. And I took the book now. I knew the answer was in a book, and I'm reading that, really ever seen it, and I threw it down, and I said, I'll never get it. I'll never know how to stay sober. I'll just never know how to stay sober. And I went back over, and I picked that book up again. And I said, one more time. Now this is, and I said, how it works. So I knew it. It says it, how it works, a big chapter. And then I said, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. I said, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly... I said, Jesus, I got the answer. I had the answer. There it was. Man, I just got to follow the path and I won't drink. Even thinking about that today, I get really, it just gets so excited. You tell a psychiatrist, what does it for you? Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. I mean, can you imagine him looking at you? What's the biggest thing in your life, Ray? Rarely have you seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. I said, Jesus Christ, man, he doesn't even know what I'm... But anyway, I said, I got to get excited about this because I'm excited about this. But I said to myself, I had to go to the AA meeting that night. I used to go to this old Fulton River group. They used to meet on Fulton River, now meets on Beverly Glen. But anyway, it used to be a dark, secluded room with 60 million years of sobriety. You know, you weren't allowed to talk there unless you had 40 years. It was just awesome. I mean, it was just terrible with sobriety. And I was going to speak that night because I had something that nobody knew. And I knew they were holding out on me. I couldn't wait, because see, I just, all that mumbling, I was going to say it loud and clear that night. And boy, came my turn to talk. I said, I'm alcoholic, my name is Ray. I said, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. And the next mistake I made, I tried to talk. I should have shut up then, it would have been okay. But I went back to my mumbling, and that was it. But faces moved a little bit that night. And they looked over at me, and Jesus God, the kid's talking. Well, I ended up with rarely have you seen a person fail, and for the next 3 months, that's all I said. I'd go up to Mike, I said, rarely have you seen a person fail? He said, right, kid, right. Well, it wasn't too bad after the first week or two, but, after a couple of months, he said, oh, Jesus. Back again, but, I say, I'm an alcoholic, my name is Ray, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. And then rarely was it, but I knew. And then a guy who you know, Don Heisek, who you know too, Don. I had another line in the book 3 months later. It's a very funny story, but I remember it. And Don was at the meeting. And I came out with this second line I had, which I won't go into. But after the meeting, he came out to me after, he says, Jesus, thank God you turned the page. I got to tell that story because that's a true story. That's a true story. Alcoholics Anonymous, they give me the book Alcoholics Anonymous because I got rarely have you seen a person fail, and it starts out like that. But it was so vitally important to me that the first piece, the first piece of this beautiful puzzle was put together. And that's what I say when I say the idea in my head, there was nothing, and I'm not ashamed to say that. Some people come in with a lot of confusion, some people come in with a lot of why, some people come in with a lot of different things, and all I came in was, I just want you to show me. That's all I wanted to do. I just didn't want to drink. I fulfilled the first condition, that I have a desire to stay sober. And then from that time on, then I had that, and then I was a year sober, and like Mike said, that first birthday, yeah, that's a big one. A year. God almighty, a year. I had about 2 or 3 lines in my head then, but it was okay. But what happened to me via the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I mean this, was as I took the idea from the book and I put it in my head, and I would go out and I'd work it. And that's the way it worked. Now, I'd like to say that every idea came in and I did it real quick, but that's a lie. You know, there's a line in the book, the second line, which I will say. It says, our very lives as ex-problem drinkers depends upon our constant thought of others and how we may help meet their needs. That was the second line. And the third line that I learned, most good ideas are simple. And this was the keystone through which a new and triumphant arch through which we passed to freedom. That was the third line. And after that, I don't know. But the second line, thinking about somebody else, that one took me 1 year to work. And at the end of 1 year, I could think about somebody for a minimum or a maximum of about 15 seconds. And that's the truth. Now it's a little different. Now it's a little different. But when I know that line, I'm not just saying, hey, I'm not just saying our very lives as ex-problem. I'm saying I lived that line because I tried desperately to understand it and to think about somebody else for a period of time. And I couldn't do it. But I tried. Now it's a lot easier, of course, but in those days it wasn't. But I was all the things that the alcoholic was. I was a self-centered individual. I was selfish. I was egotistical. I was fearful. I was all the things that it mentioned in the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. But I was following that path. I wanted desperately to follow that path. And so that was my combination, or my, how would you say, my road, my path. It was laid down before me. It was laid down by the people before me, and I just sort of picked it up. And I said, yeah, I understand. I understand. The book of Alcoholics Anonymous has never lied to me. It never has. I believe every word in it, from chapter 2 through chapter... Bill's story's nice, but it's his story, and that's cool. But I got to go from there is a solution, and that's okay. But I love that. I think if Bill were here, he'd say, hey, kid, it's okay. You know, that's just my story, and he's the master, you know. But I wanted sobriety. And I want sobriety today more than I've ever wanted it before, because, you know, I just believe that so firmly. I'm not an alcoholic counselor or, you know, too smart in the head. I don't belong to any societies or groups or anything. I don't even get into controversy. Sometimes it hurts me deep inside. Sometimes when I in meetings now, but that's the way it is today. You know, I still got to be here to help. I still got to be here to say, hey man, you know, can I help you out a little ways? And my life is contingent upon my God as I understand him and not drinking. You know that if you don't drink, you're not going to get drunk. I understand that. I'm not into controversies with internal problems of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm just a drunk. I don't ever want to forget that I'm just a plain, ordinary, run-of-the-mill drunk. And that I love to pick up a wet drunk and say, hey man, you know, come on, maybe we can make it together. Because I believe that. I believe it. He's not going to listen. He doesn't care about my opinions or he just cares about saying, hey man, I hear you. I hear you. And that's why when I said I don't work with anybody over 7 days, I mean that. I mean that. Because I don't have the wisdom. I don't have the wisdom. I don't drink. I say a prayer to my God as I understand him. That's what I do. I've taken these steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I love Mr. Ross and people here because I remember and he remembers me. And the people that I come in contact with, I hope that they remember me too. Because it's important. It's important it's important to me whether I get something across here tonight. That's true. I wish I could stand up here and be so selfish and self-centered to say, hey, screw you. I don't care, but I do care. Because what's been given to me for free, I got to give away to somebody else with something. But if nobody gets anything, that's okay too. You know, I'm trying. I'm trying. But that's the message for me. That's the message of love. Because love is going to heal my heart and soul. That's the caring. I do. I really care about, I care whether you make it or not. And I'm not into any word games with it. You know, I can't go do your drinking for you. But I care whether you go out and drink. And I learned that in Alcoholics Anonymous. Somebody has got to care. Somebody has got to care today. Somebody's got to care long enough to say, hey, how you doing? Because if it's all for not that, then where do I go? Where do I walk into a room and somebody's saying, I don't give a shit about you? Man, I'm in the wrong place. The bars are full of those places. And the joints. So somebody's got to care. And so my heart is open. I don't hide anything. You want to ask me how I feel, if I'm happy, joy? I'm not. So what? But it does not stand in my way of helping others. I am that free of self that if I am in a jackpot, I can go out to somebody else, my fellow man today, and listen to him. I have a girl that has slashes on her wrist. It looks like a washboard. Not her wrist, her arm, on both arms. And the other, now she's not a player. You know, there's players of suiciders, but she's not a player. She's a doer. And I can't reach her. I said, well, I can't do anything about it. And I felt those scars because I wanted to feel them. Because they're the pain scars. And I wanted her to know that I do care about her. And I told her she's going to make her trip. She's going to check out. She's going to do it. Because that's really true. She's going to do it. But I am so inadequate with these words of mine. But at least I didn't say, hey, the hell with you. And that's what Alcoholics Anonymous taught me. And so when I say that I'm a product of Alcoholics Anonymous, I am the end result of, don't judge it by me, Jesus, please. But judge it that I'm sober. Because it was in July of 1969 that I took that last drink from me. Judge it to be sober. It is important to be sober. It's one of the things that I think is a little bit important, that sometimes get overlooked sometimes. You know, with the sophistication of our society today. When it was Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob, they said, hey man, we got to stay sober today. Maybe they talked a lot about a lot of other things, but man, their main thing was they said, hey baby, we better stay sober and go down and find another wet drunk. I kind of sort of like to think if I could talk to Dr. Bob, I wonder that's what he was saying, you know. And so I don't have the eloquence, and I say that, and I'm not being humble because I'm not a humble guy. But I have been breathed the life into my system from the people of Alcoholics Anonymous. And from my elder people here, and I know the ones because I've heard them speak, and I listen. And I can tell their story because I listen good. And I also listen to the new ones. I never discount the person with one day saying, hey, this is the way it is with me, because you see, he can teach me too. And I got to remain open. And I hope I never know the answers all the way. I know some of them. You know something? I know some of the answers. And I work those answers. And I'll tell you something else. I'm well enough today to say that. I'm well enough to care today. I'm not a sicko. I used to be, but I'm not anymore. Now, next year, if you ask me, I'll say I was sick last year. I had a headache, terrible. But I mean, this is the way it is now. I got 4 minutes, and then I'm going to close. But I want to close with this story that's very important to me. I was in this, I had 2.5 years of sobriety. And I was in this little town of Casa Grande. And I asked where there was a meeting, and they said they have one meeting a week. And it was, this town has 11,000 people in it, and it was on a Wednesday night. And I said, fine. I went to the meeting. It was on the Skid Row section of town, which is one street off the main drag. And I walked in the meeting, and they had these big bugs on the floor. They out in that country, they got those terrible bugs. And there was one woman there. She was quite elderly. Nothing against elderly women, but just to give you the picture. There was and a bunch of guys from this Indian reservation that lived on a reservation. And me, I had a white jacket on. And when I walked in with my white jacket, and I saw those bugs, and I saw those guys from the reservation, and I saw the one woman making coffee, and she didn't look too swift, I said to myself, these people need me. I come from Los Angeles, you see. I'm a new boy on the block for a couple of weeks here, and I said, Jesus, I got thousands of meetings behind me. I'm sober 2.5 years. I said, God, I was like shooting duck. So anyway, the meeting opened up, and we had a little long table. And the guy was sitting over there. I was sitting on this side. He was sitting there. He was the first man he spoke, and he had his head down, and he said these words. He said, "I talked to the higher power, and no drink today." And I still remember that. I slumped down in my seat. I had the message of simplicity pretty good embedded in my head. That was one thing Mike never, he made sure I kept it simple. But there was the message of simplicity given to me again. And it came my turn to talk. And I said, I am an alcoholic. My name is Ray, and thank you. Because there was nothing I could say. The message had been driven home to me, loud and clear. And I learned one very big lesson, and another lesson, I think 3. One, they don't need me in Casa Grande. They're going to do good out there without me. Number 2, the powerful message of simplicity, which I've carried with my heart and soul to every new person I've ever worked with. And 3, I don't have all the answers. And that as long as I live, or wherever I go, I can never walk in and say, hey man, I know all the answers. Because that Indian from that reservation that doesn't even know me and I don't know him, it's his message. It's his talk, it's his words. I'm just the instrument being used. But that really happened to me. And I've never changed since. And I've, like I said, have been sober continuously for 13 years and 10 months and a little bit. And I say a prayer to my God as I understand him. I do. I hurt when I hurt, and I don't got it all together a lot of the time. But I want you to look inside, because if you ask me, I'll tell you. I ain't hiding nothing. And, but I don't drink. And again I say that I love Alcoholics Anonymous, and it is the whole and total complete answer for this alcoholic. And thank you, Sherry, for asking me to share.
Thank you, Ray. I can't let this go by. I got to tell you one thing. When he was talking about that Fulton River meeting, I don't know how long. He came in one night and his face he was lit up, right? He said, I got me one. He said, I got me an old guy called Pappy. He says, I want to have him here. And he brought Pappy in at the next meeting the next week, and I looked at him, I said, Ray, he ain't gonna make it. I said, oh, yes, he is. And this went on for 3 weeks, and I kept saying, Ray, he ain't gonna make it. He got so mad he wouldn't talk to me. All I can say, he never gave up until Pappy died, I think. Anyway, this has been another typical meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and just to prove it to you, we're going to pass the baskets because we have no dues or fees. And I assume we close the meeting in the usual manner. And for those of you who care to join us, I'd like to ask Kurt if he'd lead us in the Lord's Prayer after a moment of meditation.
Recorded May the 24th, 1983 at Central Valley Speakers Meeting.